Hours of train service delays after signaling faults hit 4 MTR lines. Democratic Party lawmaker Ted Hui charged over a phone snatching incident in the LegCo building. And Turkish police search the Saudi consulate in Istanbul as they investigate the disappearance of a journalist.
Good evening and welcome. Chaos at MTR stations during the morning peak hour today as simultaneous signaling failures hit 4 railway lines. Apart from train delays that lasted 6 hours, traffic on some major roads was severely congested, leaving many commuters frustrated. More from Haley Zhou.
For the first time, 4 of the MTR lines were hit by serious service disruptions simultaneously. At around 6:20 in the morning, the MTR announced there were delays on the Island, Chunwan and Kwun Tong line due to signal faults. Train services on these 3 lines were reduced to running at around 15-minute intervals, down from the usual 2 minutes. That added about extra 40 minutes to the commuting time for most passengers. Subsequently, the Cheongwan-O line also broke down.
And as a result, the command of train speed cannot be passed to trains in Kwun Tong line, Chunwan line, and Island line. Because of the safety first principle, we can only operate the service using manual operations with slow speed.
Crowd control measures were put in place at the concourse and near the gates of affected stations. Roads were choked too, as rail passengers struggled to find other routes to get to work. At around 9:30 a.m., the MTR Corporation announced that the signal failure on the Island line had been resolved, but trains were running with severe delays. At around noon, some 6 hours after the signal problems were first detected, train services gradually resumed. The MTR Corporation apologized for the inconvenience and said a thorough investigation will be carried out to find the root cause of the signaling failures.
We have been doing upgrades of our signaling system. We are not excluding any possible causes of the incident, so it might be caused by the upgrade work. We don't know.
The MTRC also said it would offer half-fare concessions to all passengers for 1 day without specifying the exact date. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Many of those who gave up on the MTR this morning for other forms of public transport were only met with more queues. Chief Executive Carrie Lam once again appealed to employers to be understanding towards workers who were unable to get to work on time. Kana Chu reports.
Swarms of commuters scrambled for other means of transport after train services on 4 MTR lines went down this morning. This resulted in massive traffic congestion on many of the city's trunk roads, including the Kwun Tong bypass, where vehicles were stuck all the way to Kowloon City. At least 6 traffic accidents were also reported near the Cheongwan-O tunnel alone an hour before noon. Many taxi stands, bus stops, and ferry piers across the city were jam-packed with commuters anxious to get to school or work. At Hong Kong, queues for cross-harbor buses were so long that they extended all the way up the flyover and back into the train station. I'm worried about getting fired from work for being late, this man told us. He noted the crowdedness was the same both for MTR trains and cross-harbor buses. Amid the traffic chaos, many people were seen resorting to commuting on foot on the island side. Even though the MTR has since offered to compensate affected passengers by offering half-priced tickets for a day, some lawmakers were concerned about future repeats.
We can see a very serious numbers of failures within this years. They should stop this upgrade and to let the public know the reasons of these failures as soon as possible.
I urge the government and the MTR to revise the punishment mechanism to include the factor that the duration of the incident and the seriousness.
咁我哋亦都會督促咧港鐵必須要。
Chief Executive Carrie Lam appealed to employers to be understanding towards employees unable to get to work punctually. She also urged the MTR Corporation to conduct proper preventative measures. Secretary for Transport and Housing Frank Chan additionally said officials had already called on other public transport providers to beef up their services. Kena Chu, TVB News.
In other news tonight, a pro-democracy lawmaker is now facing prosecution. He's accused of snatching a government officer's mobile phone at the Legislative Council in April. Suspended Democratic Party lawmaker Ted Hui announced on social media that he's facing 3 charges. They are common assault, resisting or obstructing a public officer in the execution of public duties, and access to a computer with criminal or dishonest intent. Hui is now released on bail. He's due to appear at the Eastern Magistracy next Tuesday. He apologized in April for grabbing a female security officer's mobile phone and running into a men's toilet. Hui said he did it because he suspected the government was collecting personal information on lawmakers.
Saudi Arabia is reportedly preparing to acknowledge that journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed in a botched interrogation. This comes after a Turkish forensics team searched the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, where the journalist was last seen. A Turkish foreign ministry official says the Saudi consul's home in Istanbul will also be searched. Alan Buknia reports.
Technicians dressed in coveralls, gloves, and covered shoes treated the Saudi consulate as a crime scene. But their search didn't begin until hours after cleaning personnel were seen going into the building. Turkish investigators searched the consulate for 9 hours. It's not clear what evidence they gathered. A report in the New York Times says Prince Salman approved the interrogation of Khashoggi. The report says the Saudi government would shield the prince by blaming Khashoggi's death on a bungled interrogation by a tragically incompetent intelligence official. U.S. President Donald Trump said he spoke with the King of Saudi Arabia, who denied any knowledge of what took place.
We are going to leave nothing uncovered. With that being said, the King firmly denied any knowledge of it. He didn't really know. Maybe, I don't want to get into his mind, but it sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers.
Trump sent U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Saudi Arabia to speak with King Salman over the case. It's also believed Pompeo will visit Ankara during his trip to speak with Turkish officials. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
Harvard University is in court defending itself against a lawsuit that claims the school discriminates against Asian American applicants. The trial in a federal court in Boston pits Harvard against Students for Fair Admissions, a nonprofit group of more than 20,000 students, parents, and others, was founded by an anti-affirmative action activist and is backed by the Trump administration. The lawsuit claims that Asian Americans outperform other groups on academic measures, but Harvard consistently gives them lower scores on the personal rating that measures character traits such as courage and likability. The lawsuit says that's because Harvard wants to limit their numbers in favor of other racial minorities. Harvard denies the claim. The case could eventually go to the Supreme Court, where conservative judges now make up the majority.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Canberra is open to following the United States and moving its embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. His comments come just days before a crucial by-election in Sydney, where his centre-right coalition faces the risk of losing its tenuous grip on power. Sydney's population is 12.5% Jewish, a significantly larger proportion than the rest of the country.
We are committed to a two-state solution, but frankly, it hasn't been going that well. Not a lot of progress has been made. And you don't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And so when sensible suggestions are put forward that are consistent with your policy positioning, and in this case pursuing a two-state solution, Australia should be open-minded to this.
Also in Australia, thousands of fans congratulated Britain's Prince Harry and his wife after word that Meghan is pregnant. The news was released after the royal couple arrived in Sydney yesterday. The Duke and Duchess are on a 16-day tour that includes Australia, Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand. The couple met a koala bear at the Taronga Zoo. Then they took time to greet a long line of well-wishers right outside the Sydney Opera House. In addition to enjoying a long list of other events, Prince Harry spoke about his wife's pregnancy.
Genuinely, thank you for the incredibly warm welcome and the chance to meet so many Aussies from all walks of life. And we also generally couldn't think of a better place to announce the upcoming baby, be it a boy or a girl. So thank you very, very much.
British Prime Minister Theresa May has urged the European Union not to follow a standoff over the so-called Irish backstop to derail Brexit negotiations. This, as a no-deal divorce looks increasingly likely.
I don't want to see the backstop having to be used at all. What I want is to ensure that we deliver for the people of Northern Ireland through the future relationship, and that future relationship comes into place on the 1st of January 2021 when the implementation period ends, so that we don't have to see this backstop arrangement being used at all.
Besides pressure from the EU, May is struggling to ease concerns within her Conservative Party and her partners in Parliament, Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party. Eurosceptics in her party fear the backstop would keep Britain indefinitely in the bloc's customs union. The DUP, meanwhile, threatened to withdraw support for May in Parliament, saying it cannot accept anything that splits Northern Ireland from the rest of Britain. May also continued to insist that no Brexit deal is better than a bad deal and promised there would be a hard border between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. Still ahead in tonight's news. The CE promises public participation in pressing ahead with the Lantau Tomorrow Vision project.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren urges Trump to pay up after taking a DNA test. And Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen dies of cancer at the age of 65.
Welcome to our lounge. Enjoy your stay.
Thanks very much.
Find calm in over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. It's another way we've got your back. The Platinum Card from American Express. Don't live life without it.
Welcome back to TVB News. The chief executive is saying there will be ample public involvement in her reclamation plan, which is outlined in the Lantau Tomorrow Vision. This from Carrie Lam after reporters asked her to comment on opposition towards the massive land reclamation proposal. Caleb Leung has details.
A proposal for our future generations. That's how the chief executive described her Lantau Tomorrow project this morning. She was asked about the thousands of protesters who took to the street last Sunday to say no to the massive land reclamation plan. Carrie Lam reminded them of the 270,000 families on the public housing waiting list.
Hong Kong needs a more steady supply of land, not only to meet our immediate needs, but to meet the future needs of Hong Kong, both in terms of housing, economic development, leisure, and all the other purposes.
Lam said the long-term reclamation plan will be carried out in phases with ample time for further discussion by members of the public. The final scale is also yet to be finalized, but the plan is meant for the good of the city.
Hong Kong should move forward. Hong Kong should be a better city for our population. So there's absolutely no conspiracy in this Lantau Tomorrow vision except to do good things for the people of Hong Kong.
As for Lau Siu Lai, who was barred from running in November's LegCo by-election, the CE refused to comment, saying the case may go through an election petition or judicial review process. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren took a DNA test that she says proves she has Native American ancestry. As President Donald Trump refuses to apologize for calling her a fake, there are rumors Warren plans to run for president. For years, Donald Trump has repeatedly used the Indian nickname Pocahontas to ridicule Senator Elizabeth Warren for insisting she is of Indian heritage.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
So the Massachusetts Democrat hit back with a DNA test she says confirms her claim.
We did find 5 segments of Native American ancestry with very high confidence, where we believe the error rate is less than 1 in 1,000.
Now, the president likes to call my mom a liar. What do the facts say?
The facts suggest that you absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
That DNA analysis concluded Warren's ancestry is mostly European, but contains strong evidence she had a Native American ancestor 6 to 10 generations ago. With one generation equaling about 30 years, 6 means Warren's ancestor existed at the earliest 180 years ago, which Trump still dismissed as far-fetched.
How much? 1,000?
Do you owe her an apology? What about the money that
I owe her. She owes the country an apology.
Warren is demanding Trump produce the money he promised to pay for proving she is of Native American lineage. But Trump claims that wager comes with a caveat.
I'll only do it if I can test her personally.
Some Native American groups are siding with Trump on the issue. Cherokee Nation Secretary of State Chuck Hoskin Jr. insists DNA tests are useless at determining tribal citizenship. Plus, a Cherokee Nation official scolded Warren for undermining tribal interests with her claims of tribal heritage. Sources say the release of a DNA analysis packaged in a professional video production is a sign Warren is preparing to run for president in 2020. Trump looks forward to challenging her.
I hope that she is running. I do not think she'd be difficult at all. She'll destroy the country.
Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, has died of cancer at the age of 65. Bill Gates said personal computing would not have existed without the billionaire philanthropist, who was also a keen technology investor and owned several major sports teams. Jeff Tang reports.
For many people, being the co-founder of a company that would go on to spearhead the personal computer revolution and change billions of lives around the world would have topped any ambitious bucket list. But for Paul Allen, launching Microsoft with childhood friend Bill Gates was just chapter 1 of the amazing legacy he left behind. The 65-year-old died in his native Seattle on Monday from complications of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Earlier this month, Allen had announced that the cancer he was treated for in 2009 had returned. Gates said he was heartbroken about the loss of one of his oldest and dearest friends. Never one to sugarcoat his words, Gates said personal computing would not have existed without him in a statement. Gates also lauded his childhood friend for improving people's lives and strengthening communities in Seattle and around the world. Allen's sister Jody praised him as a remarkable individual on every level in a family statement. The company co-founded by the Allen siblings, Vulcan, released this heartfelt statement. Today we mourn our boss, mentor and friend whose 65 years were too short, and acknowledge the honor it has been to work alongside someone whose life transformed the world. Vulcan is a private company that oversees Allen's philanthropic efforts and diverse business interests, including the ownership of NBA team Portland Trail Blazers and NFL side Seattle Seahawks. He was also a part owner of MLS squad Seattle Sounders. Born in January 1953, Allen was already an accomplished computer programmer as a teenager when he and Gates became friends. After a 2-year stint at Washington State University, Allen dropped out to pursue a career as a programmer. He later convinced Gates to drop out of Harvard in order to start Microsoft, and the rest was history. Among his many endeavors, Allen also founded institutes for brain science, artificial intelligence, and cell science. In 2013, he founded Strato Launch Systems, a transportation venture developing systems to launch satellites from the air to low Earth orbit. He has pledged billions of dollars to a wide range of causes, including education, wildlife and environmental conservation, arts, healthcare, and community services. It is perhaps a testimony to his prolific contributions to humanity that his immense wealth is left as a footnote. At the time of his death, Allen was the 46th richest person in the world, with an estimated net worth of $20.3 billion. Considered by some as a reclusive person, he never married and had no children. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
And from all of us, thanks for joining us.
Bye for now.